And we're live. How you doing? Not live. Recording, but not live. I just like the way that sounds. Today I'm going to have a look at these dirty thumbnails, and I've chosen one already. I don't know if I made a video for this last time. I think I did. But anyway, these thumbnail videos are probably not very popular or very cool. By the way, up on the screen right now, or previous to what I'm saying now for a few seconds, you saw the finished result of what I'm working on today. So by now you're probably looking at me actually starting to work on this canvas in the GIMP software, and lots of interesting things to talk about today, and educational things for those of you who are taking my courses, and also I should tell you what I'm doing here. First, let me close this. So these were the thumbnails I made. You can zoom in like one at a time. It's very crude, right? But it's a good way to start off. I just wanted to make that. And what we're doing is Perseus and Medusa. Everybody knows Medusa is, if you stare at her, you turn to stone. She's a monster from Greek mythology. She has a head full of snakes and supposedly not very attractive. But, well, we'll come back to that topic in a minute. So what I'm doing is we have Perseus who slayed Medusa. He chopped her head off. Is there another decapitate? Chopped her head off. It sounds like a lumberjack went to town on a neck. But yeah, he beheaded her, right? And there's a reason for it that goes. I'm not even going to try. Greek mythology stories are so hard to explain sometimes, always so complicated, but beautiful, but just not easy to summarize. So this would be Perseus in background, stick figure, and her in the foreground, right? That was I'm just experimenting with ideas. And then in the next thumbnail I said, well, here's him in the foreground and then her in the background. You can see she's got her bow and arrow, which is one of her trademarks. And then I tried again with him in the background, her in the foreground again, but with her being much bigger. In this one, I started to like the idea of her being very, very big. And I also like the idea of her not being easily seen or very visible, something like in the shadows, because she's supposed to be so ugly that if you look at her, you turn to stone. And I don't like the word ugly. I think this is what it's become a tradition to say it like that. I don't know if that's exactly what it was supposed to. That might be a modern interpretation. I don't know. I don't have time, to look it up. But the idea is that if you look at her, you'll turn to stone. Okay. And there's a reason for that, which again is just too long and complicated for me to summarize. But most people know, Medusa. She's supposed to be unattractive, monster, female. She has wings, as I read too. I didn't even know that. Actually, if you had asked me to draw her without doing any research, I probably would not have drawn wings. And I don't think I read anything. I'm not referring to movies when I do research on this stuff. I'm trying to get the actual Greek myth, and I'm allowing a little bit of the movie kind of pop culture blend in sometimes because it just has to. Because it's hard not to. Let me put it that way, because people will say, well, that's weird. It doesn't fit what I thought she was, right? So, and sometimes I just don't know any better, so I just have to do that. So the idea is to make a good illustration that everyone recognizes, and it's going to be Perseus and Medusa. I don't care. I mean, I do care, but I don't care that much that I'm going to waste an enormous amount of time nitpicking on all of the details. That's actually just counterproductive, right? So my final thumbnail here, which caused me to stop and draw no more, as you can see, I just said that's it. I want it so that she is kind of in the background. The light will be coming from behind her, so you won't actually be able to see her face in this area here. You'll get something of like an aura of her, right? So the light will be coming around her or from top. I'm not 100% decided on that. Or yeah, actually, I'm deciding right now. It'll be coming. I should probably use a red pen. What? It'll be coming in this direction over from here to here. And the reason for that, I'm thinking right now, is if it's behind her, she's facing him, and that way we won't see her face, and we will see him, and he'll have a brilliant type of the light is all on me, you know, I'm a hero kind of look. So that's perfect. And I just decided that right now. In the background, these are meant to be pillars to help further bring about the Greekness of it all. And so those were the thumbnails. Now I choose one and I enlarge it, just like that. And it's very sloppy. And we'll start to work on it. While I'm doing that, oops, it's on the wrong layer. While I'm doing that, we can talk about the news, illustration news. I just put in a project, a proposal for a project to help some Cambodian students at the CCF, as they call it, Cambodian Children's Fund. It seems that every human being in this country of Cambodia knows that of this institution. So what they do is they help Cambodian kids who have come from a very hard situation to give them the best situation possible and the best education they possibly can. And so they have some good funds for that. And I was lucky to bump into the right people and awarded an opportunity to submit a proposal for that. We are all optimistic about it thus far, just waiting for things like budgets and business things. However, if it doesn't work out, I'm still already happy and elated about the fact that I had the opportunity to meet these people and to talk about these things and to help, hopefully, to be able to do the workshop, and not only not just about me, but to help the kids. It'll be great. So that's one thing that happened. Another thing is that I put up a excuse me, I had to think for a minute there. There's this website called Displate, DISPLAT. If you are active with the arts on anything like Facebook or wherever, you've probably gotten an advertisement from them as well. What they do is they take very high resolution, very high quality illustrations, or what they call artwork, digital. Well, it has to be in digital form. If it was a photo, it just has to be a very high resolution, I guess. And they turn it into this unique type of print. So the unique type of print is like printed onto metal or something, and it's magnetic. And the cool idea about it is that you can take, I guess it comes with like a sticker that you can stick to the wall that has a magnet on it, and so then you can like just you can swap it out. So you can stick this one up on the wall today and then take it off, and tomorrow put a different one up. You can have a whole collection of them. That's a really good idea because you can change the mood, let's say, of your living room. Today you want to hang up these arts, and tomorrow you can hang up some different ones. So, I mean, that's just obviously, but how do you say it? For me, it's always a matter of, like, in computers, what we call user friendliness or user experience, being able to do things your way and having flexibility to do things your way. So I failed on my first attempt to meet their quality standards, and I don't think I really had anything at the resolution they were requiring. Most of my illustrations, like this one here, are done at 4,000 by 2,000 pixels. That's where I start. I can crop it later, however. But that's way more than enough for anything that you're going to put on the internet. Usually anything 2,000 pixels wide is already bigger than most monitors, right? And if you're talking, well, obviously with like mobile, it's a completely different story. Let me switch to a softer brush. I don't like that hard edge. Yeah, right. And so what I did is I took the last black and white. This one needs to switch to. I took the last black and white illustration I did, which was Athena, the Greek goddess Athena. Lots of Greek stuff. and I just I retraced it in a very, very high resolution, like 10,000 pixels. And then they the system kind of rejected that because it was too big. I said, well, wait a minute. You told me the highest possible resolution. And they said for later on, I found out for landscapes, they have some kind of I don't know, there's a maximum size they'll accept for the width of a landscape. So if it was a portrait size, then it would have worked, but it wasn't, so it didn't. But that brought up something that is both important for modern times, you know, just educationally speaking, or hopefully this is like a good tip for somebody who's starting off with digital, is to always remember that later on you might not be able to enlarge because, well, they're very smart what they did at Displate, at this metal printing website. They said clearly that you may not take a smaller illustration and try to resize it, and they have some computer algorithms or something that can detect if you try to do that. And so obviously that's going to frustrate some people because they'll have it frustrated me. I had a very good illustration which, even if I zoomed in very, very, very close, I think it had very good resolution, and I could imagine it being printed out very big. And, well, I don't have the time right now, but you've probably seen some of if you haven't, just go to my website or to DeviantArt, links below, and you can see that I do everything pretty high resolution. You can zoom in very far, and those ones that I'm posting online are only half of the original size. Because I usually scale it down to 2,000 pixels wide, and then upload at that size. But that, you can't stretch it later on. Well, they didn't allow it, so I don't know. I thought it looked good enough even when I stretched it, but they didn't like it. So I just retraced one of my newer black and white illustrations just to see if it would work, and it did. So that was good news. But I had to make it like really big, and then eventually I scaled it down to about 6,000 by 6,000 pixels, or 6,000 by whatever it was. I don't know what was 6,000. It's the equivalent of 4,000 by 2,000, but at the 6,000 width. I'm not doing math at the moment. Okay, this is tricky right here. I do want to fill in that black space there, but her feathers I want to see coming here. Just remember the light is coming from over there, right? Yeah. And so what would be really great here is if this area can somehow be black. And the reason for that, somebody was very clever. They brought this up in review or critique of my last illustration with Athena. It would be nice if there was some black area or more lines or darkness behind Athena so that she would seem to glow more. Or so I could do like an aura effect. And I'll give you a perfect example of that right here. I have, if he's here, I have to think. He'll be like kind of crouched, right? You go into battle, it should be kind of, he does need his shield up too, because you can't look at her. Right, that's another reason. Don't forget. Very important, actually. And he's going to be, his back kind of crouched like this. But I want his arm out. The sword ready to go. Kind of like that. So one leg could be here. He's kind of creeping in. A little bit like that. I'll have to refine that later. But I think a little bit like that. And obviously he's a hero, so I'm going to make him, a lot stronger by the time it's all said and done. But let's imagine, so this is our rough sketch now, right? We're doing one from a thumbnail, which is like not even a sketch. That's why it's just called a thumbnail. But Now I'm getting into sketch mode and refining things. So now you see that if he's white like that and the light is coming over, we can have some effects of like aura coming around him. Obviously not like that, it's cartoony, but I can have I can use the light to make him pop out a lot more like that, and have shadow behind him go kind of like this, right? So this is a contrast drawing, as I made a whole course about that. It's on Udemy and Skillshare. I just want to get the highest contrast possible to see where do things pop, where do things sit comfortably in a way that the eye will be able to make it up. Excuse me, a little bit of a cold. Just some light shining in here, if it will. Yeah, see, that's more that you can do. When you have more black and behind something, you can do more effects like that. I'm not sure if that's going to be very useful, but I'll put it there as a suggestion for the meantime. I'll flip the canvas for the sake of balancing out some of my lazy lines here, which are leaning in one direction. I guess they're leaning to, I find myself wanting to, well, it's hard to say, depending if I start from bottom to up or up to bottom. I need more of this angle coming out right now in many places. I don't know if her, this area here is her quiver, which should have some arrows in it. The fact that she has wings kind of complicates things because it's a lot to add to the composition. I kind of want to just fill all this in, then white out, and do something like this to show her feathers. Right, for starters, that's easier. And I think that kind of makes it enough. Yeah. Okay. So now we won't actually be able to see her face, but I think that makes it even, kind of scarier, right? Now the snakes coming out here. I don't know if the snakes all need to be random, like they often do. There's other ways of looking at it. Snakes could be in a pattern all coming towards Perseus, recognizing his presence there and getting prepared for the situation. Something like that. Yeah. So this area here, let's forget about the string of the bow for a minute. Just get that wing out there. Wing is up, down. There should be some kind of balance and symmetry. Because wings are a very delicate thing. It's supposed to be meant for flying. Now, she's not flying with these wings at all. I don't know why she would have them. Not realistically. But Greek myths obviously are not at times of advanced science, or not in modern terms anyway. Different kind of science perhaps. Okay. That's that. It's very simple, very crude. But now I have something to work on. And this one, when it goes full color, I'm going to make this into a nice contrast drawing and finalize it, hopefully. See this area in the middle. Well, let me finish my sentence. Before I go into color, I'll make this into a nice contrast drawing. There's space here where I can do more like rocks and, well, what else would you have? I'm imagining they're like in an underground cave. I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know why. I might have to look that up. I do not want to forget about these pillars back here. I want them to look like relics of pillars, kind of. I have to think of a way to make sure they don't just look like random you know, I don't know, just random structures back there. So I guess like one way would be to have like a Greco-Romanesque kind of like roof. But then if I do that, it doesn't really look like ruins, does it? So I'll have to think about that. And then in this area here, the white on the top. Okay, so yeah, to finish some of what I was saying, we have also on the top here some stalactites or stalagmites, whichever they are, coming down. If they're in a cave, not as many. But yeah, a lot of this will turn into color eventually, so it won't be so stark white. But the point of all this with a contrast drawing is to say that if I can make this look good with only black and white at super high contrast, then that's a good composition for sure. I also wanted to add some perspective to it, which didn't really happen. And this one has very, it's kind of bland. I didn't consider that. I might adjust for that. Next, I could have her, you know, up much higher. I don't know. Let's say I'd need a different color pen. Let me try the red on a different layer. So if perspective or horizon were about here, then I had like a nightmare that somebody was doing the perspective all wrong and wouldn't listen to me. That happens sometimes. But I don't tell people what to do. But if you're collaborating, I guess, working together with somebody, if that were to happen, I guess it'd be really annoying. Okay. There's that for now. I don't feel like the perspective is bad. It's just that, here's the thing. If this is where, like, 1 foot in front of me, then you start to get, you know, it gets smaller and smaller. This will be 5 feet. That'll be, you know, 20 feet, 50 feet, and 100 feet. And it gets to be like miles away very soon by the time you get there. So if that's the case, it means this thing would be like, I don't know, millions of miles away. But it could also be, it's okay, but it would have to start, oops, let me get back to black. It would have to start like down here, kind of. And then we could have that. Right. That'll be more realistic. I don't want it to look like it's starting from someplace above the horizon. That would mean it's actually like off the planet. So it's starting from down in this area and it goes up on the hill. That's okay. Right? And so that's something that has to be taken into mind with, or taken into account with perspective in this type of situation. So with so much stark black here, it does get a little bit difficult to draw out some of that. Like here, I have plenty of room. There's like a cliff that comes down, so I can show some of this here. I could even have a bit of a plateau. This will be great actually. Bit of a plateau here coming out, and then we'd get these shadows. Yeah, see shadows from the pillars. That'd be really cool, right? That's another thing that's great about the contrast drawing, is it forces you to have strong lighting and to know where your shadows are. And shadows just make drawings better, you know? It's what makes photography better too. Having a good light source so that your eye can make out the shape and the edges of everything that you see much more easily. That makes it more attractive. And then, right. So I'm really glad I drew out that perspective, but it brings up, you know, other things like how big is he? If the cliff goes here, this is how we would do this. if he's here, but the cliff goes down, so he is like right in front of us. But we could be back, so the starting point could actually be from like, 50 feet away, and then we cropped it. So we're just, we're zoomed in with a telescope at a distance. So that's 50 feet, then this would be so many feet, so many feet. And then we could calculate with that how big she actually is. Without those types of calculations, if you feel like you can't calculate that at all, then definitely you have perspective problems. That's one way to try it and like figure out whether or not you have good perspective, is to see if you can at all, if there's any way that you can calculate how big things are, because that means scale. If you have good scale, a good perspective will lead to good scale, and vice versa. Right? You have both of those. And so, yeah, see, we didn't do that. That looks a lot more natural now where this area is here. So that worked out better. And with that in mind, I would want to draw one more, since that's an enormous amount of space from here down to here. I'm going to draw in a little bit more cliff areas in here. Because if you have one, you already have one cliff back here, and he's obviously standing on a cliff. There's probably a couple more somewhere between here and there. On the right layer. This one can come in here. Right, that'll work. And we have this one here, which will also have a shadow like that. Okay. And if the light's going that way, it would be great if we could see her shadow coming down as well. But to do that, we'd need a bit of an excuse of light around here. Have a little bit lighter over here. You start to have, since this is a foreground, I have a little bit more detail. Little bit more detail. Here going up the cliff. But under her tail, it'll be shadow. And then in front of her, it'll be shadow. So I have all my detail. I was doing dot, dot, dot. These are like reminders for me to come in later and sharpen that up. Just as an excuse, like a shameless plug here, a shameless excuse just to have this shadow right there. And then we can do some more dot, dot, dot over here so you can really feel that shadow. I'm even going to draw it in just a little bit with the white line. It's like a reminder for later to make sure that shadow pops out. Right. Just like that. Yeah. So the background can have pure whites and pure blacks like that, and just a bit more detail here and there as we get closer. That'll seem more realistic. And it will help to push it'll do two things. It'll help to push the background back further so we don't see it as much. I feel like I'm on a mountain ridge line going back there. A little bit something. I'll just do like that for now. Yeah. Again, we can emphasize these lines here. So it's better if we have something back there. Then I can erase over that to show that that's where the light is coming in. A little bit. Yeah, okay. And so I was just saying there's two things that does. It push the background back further. Also, it'll help us with our perspective. So let's say, for example, right here, if we zoom in and we say this here is just here's rocks and dirt and this and that. And so as we go back further, if this is how big a white spot is here for a rock or a shadow or whatever it is, then it should get smaller as it goes back into the background, right? And so that helps us. Like if you look at an ocean and there's ripples, or if you look at a lake, an ocean or a lake, and they have ripples all over, you'll see that they get smaller as they go into the background like that. And that really helps to give us a sense of depth and space, right? You can feel it getting smaller into the background until you basically don't see it anymore. And then in the foreground, like up here, these things may be just a little bit bigger, until it gets all the way to the front and is very big there. And that really helps to build up a little bit of space and depth and stuff like that. Clean this up a little bit. So this for me already looks like a really good rough. This would be like the sketch of a contrast drawing. So we went from a thumbnail to a sketch, a full page sketch, full size sketch, and then I'll probably spend some time offline turning this into the completed. I know it's a good sketch now because I'm starting to look at this and thinking about what about how are her scales going to come in around. I'm starting to just feel where the detail. See, and that's another thing that's great about sketches. They bring you so close to the finished product that you no longer need to think. So it starts to just come to you. Right? The detail, the feathers, it's all starting to just like jump into my imagination here. And I can feel like the texture of her snake-like body, which is something else I don't know if I read anywhere that she has an actual snake-like body, but that was one of those like kind of Hollywood things. I just had to do it. Everybody else does it. They didn't have to, but I guess it just worked out. It does make sense. She has snakes on her head, wings. Okay, so that's that for now. And yeah, like I was saying, I'll just finish. I'll go into detail and make the finished product of this, or at least the last draft of it, offline. And then maybe that'll be what you've already seen, and I'll splash that back up on the up on the video right now on the screen. Right now, you should be able to see that again. And so then that's it for now. We'll see you later. Hope you enjoy that. If you have any questions or anything, let me know. Feel free to get in touch. You know, in the links you can find me. I'm at DeviantArt and ArtStation and all that stuff. Or go to my website. Okay, see ya. Have a great day.